The reading and commentary of the excerpts taken from 1984, George Orwell's best-selling novel published in 1949, is divided into separate video lessons. This one regards the importance of language and its power in humans' ability not only to express thoughts, feelings, and how strongly it is connected to people's existence on the whole, but to even conceive them. As a matter of fact, without language and without words, it is even impossible to conceive an idea. Let's start with the reading of the excerpt chosen, which is part 1 of chapter 5. "Just the man I was looking for," said a voice at Winston's back. He turned around. It was his friend Simi, who worked in the research department. Perhaps friend was not exactly the right word. You do not have friends nowadays, you had comrades, but there were some comrades whose society was pleasanter than that of others. Simi was a philologist, a specialist in Newspeak. Indeed, he was one of the enormous team of experts now engaged in compiling the 11th edition of the Newspeak dictionary. "How is the dictionary getting on?" said Wiston, raising his voice to overcome the noise. "Slowly," said Simi. "I'm on the adjectives. It's fascinating. The 11th edition is a definite edition," he said. "We're getting the language into its final shape, the shape it's going to have when nobody speaks anything else. When we've finished it, people like you will have to learn it all over again. You think, I dare say, that our chief job is inventing new words, but not a bit of it. We're destroying words, scores of them, hundreds of them, every day. We're cutting the language down to the bone. The 11th edition won't contain a single word that will become obsolete before the year 2050. In these first few lines, it is clearly emphasized by the author what the political power that rules Oceania has in mind. The plot, as you will remember, is about this new type of society, this new type of world envisioned by the author in a far off future. So almost we can almost define it as a science fiction novel with a dystopian view of the future. The fact that society is controlled by closed circuit cameras by the political leaders shows that the aim of the new ideology is to destroy any type of freedom of thought, of any freedom whatsoever. And the endeavors that are carried out by the political leaders is that to not only destroy the language, but through the destruction of the language, reshape the mind of the individuals. And as it is pointed out in these few lines, it's a gradual process that will take some time to be complete. One of the efforts is the creation of this new language, and the 11th edition shows that 10 previous attempts have been made, and this is what is to be considered as definitive, as complete. And the final shape, as Simi tells Wiston, will necessarily force the others to learn the language all over again, meaning that the original language will be totally destroyed. There will be nothing left. Let's continue. "It's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words. Of course, the great wastage is in the verbs and adjectives, but there are hundreds of nouns that can be got rid of as well. It isn't only synonyms, they're also the antonyms. After all, what justification is there for a word which is simply the opposite of some other word? A word contains its opposite in itself. Take good, for instance. If you have a word like good, what need is there for a word like bad? Ungood will do just as well, better, because it's an exact opposite, which the other is not. Or again, if you want a stronger version of good, what sense is there in having a whole string of vague, useless words like excellent and splendid, and all the rest of them? Plus good covers the meaning, or double plus good if you want something stronger still. Of course, we use those forms already, but in the final version of Newspeak, there'll be nothing else. In the end, the whole notion of goodness and badness will be covered by only 6 words. In reality, only 1 word. Don't you see the beauty of that, Winston? It was Beebe's idea originally, of course, he added as an afterthought. A sort of vapid eagerness flitted across Winston's face at the mention of Big Brother. Nevertheless, Simi immediately detected a certain lack of enthusiasm. "You haven't a real appreciation of Newspeak, Winston," he said, almost sadly. Even when you write Even when you write it, you're still thinking in old speak. I've read some of those pieces that you write in the Times occasionally. They're good enough, but they're translations. In your ear, you'd prefer to stick to old speak with all its vagueness and its useless shades of meaning. You don't grasp the beauty of the destruction of words. Do you know that Newspeak is the only language in the world whose vocabulary gets smaller every year? Again, the stress of the cutting down words, of the destruction of words, is also meant to convey the idea that by reducing the number of words, you are also simplifying the way people conceive ideas. There won't be, without words, there won't be the possibility to express the various shades of feelings, the various levels of ideas, or the depth of what one is thinking. Therefore, by reducing the number of words, you are also reducing the number of ideas, you are also reducing the complexity of the individual. And to emphasize it even more, Orwell has Simi um, explained to Winston that he is resisting this change, and that is because he doesn't grasp the beauty of the destruction of words, the fact that Winston will be prevented from thinking what he thinks. And of course, George Orwell is not uh, favorable. He uses a sort of understated irony to underline exactly the tragedy of this project. Let's continue. Winston didn't know that, of course. He smiled sympathetically. He hoped on trusting himself to speak. Simi bit off another fragment of dark-colored bread, chewed it briefly, and went on. "Don't you see the whole aim of Newspeak is to narrow the range of thought? In the end, we shall make thought crime literally impossible, because there will be no words in which to express it. Every concept that can ever be needed will be expressed by exactly 1 word, with its meaning rigidly defined and all its subsidiary meanings rubbed out and forgotten. Already in the 11th edition, we're not far from that point, but the process will still be continuing long after you and I are dead. Every year, fewer and fewer words, and the range of consciousness always a little smaller. Even now, of course, there's no reason or excuse for committing thought crime. It's merely a question of self-discipline, reality control. But in the end, there won't be any need even for that. The revolution will be complete when the language is perfect. Newspeak is Ingsoc, a Newspeak word meaning English socialism, the party's political creed, and Ingsoc is Newspeak, he added with a sort of mystical satisfaction. Has it ever occurred to you, Winston, that by the year 2050, at the very latest, not a single human being will be alive who could understand such a conversation as we are having now? By 2050, earlier probably, all real knowledge of old speak will have disappeared. The whole literature of the past will have been destroyed. Chaucer, Shakespeare, Milton, Byron, they'll exist only in Newspeak versions, not merely changed into something different, but actually changed into something contradictory of what they used to be. Even the literature of the party will change, even the slogans will change. How could you have a slogan like freedom is slavery when the concept of freedom has been abolished? The whole climate of thought will be different. In fact, there will be no thought as we understand it now. Orthodoxy means not a thing, not needing to think. Orthodoxy is unconsciousness. Again, Orwell is predicting a future in which political ideology has succeeded in transforming the human mind by brainwashing it. It's a gradual process that will take years, but that will progressively shape the future generations' ideas and their idea of life itself. Because he says it won't. The invention of a new language of Newspeak is a way to wipe out the past. Therefore, even the literature of the past will have been totally destroyed and changed into something different, into meaning something totally different. Therefore, there will be no memory of the past, and all the generations that will come after, will have um, a reduced way of expressing themselves. Like he says, the slogans like freedom is slavery will have no meaning whatsoever for the future generations, because they won't even know what freedom meant in the first place. That this is a clear accusation of how political propaganda is meant to take over the minds of people, shaping their ideas and basically brainwashing them. One of these days, thought Winston with sudden deep conviction, Simi will be vaporized. He's too intelligent. He sees too clearly and speaks too plainly. The party does not like such people. One day he will disappear. It is written in his face. In other words, he predicts a future disaster, in the sense that all those intelligent people, or those who think themselves as being intelligent and who have cooperated in shaping this new world, will be themselves destroyed, wiped away from the face of the earth as it is imagined, because they will be considered by the party dangerous to its own original project to begin with, as just because they have contributed into shaping this new society and this new world by destroying the true meaning of life and the true meaning of humans' existence, by depriving them of a complex and profound language which allows them to not only express themselves, but to be able to conceive the ideas that they want to express and the various shades and complexity of what they are, in what they are deeply inside.